Hey everybody, it's Erin here, and we are going to talk about the dumpster fire that is Colorado PACFA. So I'm wearing my This Little Light of Mine dumpster fire t-shirt to commemorate this occasion. As promised, they have added the new rule change proposal that includes making it so that all dogs and cats coming into the state of Colorado have to have a rabies vaccination prior to coming into the state, but they just really twisted the knife here to say, hey, rescues, we don't want you. They have added, for our viewing pleasure, temporary limited vaccine exemptions. Note the words temporary and limited. These can be granted by writing a letter to the commissioner, which is a joke because the commissioner doesn't approve exemptions. Nick Fisher does, and we all know it. So stop trying to pretend like we don't. Exemptions may only be granted for dogs, cats, and ferrets who are too young to be vaccinated based on the vaccine label requirements. So in theory, they're saying that if you are one of the privileged few, you can receive an exemption for these puppies that you can bring in. However, there are even more criteria that we haven't listed. You cannot request an exemption unless you have had a PACFA license for at least 2 years, and you've had no pending or disciplinary matters prior to 1 year from the date of the request. So if they've given you any little write-up or anything like that, you're not going to get an exemption. By some miracle, if you somehow have an exemption approved by Nick Fisher, not by the commissioner, even though it says the commissioner, but the commissioner doesn't do that, you have to follow these rules. You have to hold all dogs and cats imported for resale or adoption at the facility for a period of 5 days if they are 6 months of age or older, or younger, and a period of 3 days if they're older than 6 months. This holding period may not take place in a foster provider, which means a boarding facility. If the holding period is taking place in a foster home, the animal must be isolated in a room away from other dogs, cats, and children under 16 years of age. So basically, you're gonna bring this dog in that's been in a scary situation, or dogs, or puppies, or whatever, and you're gonna lock them in a room for 5 days, 3 to 5 days, and isolate them from everyone and scare the hell out of them. That sounds reasonable. Then you have to maintain a log of all animals that are under the exemption, the limited temporary exemption. Have to keep a log of everyone who comes in contact with them and anybody who walks into your building. You have to have their name, address, so on and so forth. If somebody from the state decides that your dog may or may not be sick, you have to immediately comply with their requirements and potentially euthanize the dog so that they can test it for rabies, because the only way to test for rabies is through euthanasia. So these are the requirements now for bringing in dogs. So there will be no more puppies brought into the state of Colorado. Pregnant dogs are out of luck. The 10 different, requests I got this morning to help pregnant and nursing dogs, that will be a foregone conclusion. There will be no options to bring them in because Nick Fisher is not going to approve any kind of exemptions unless you are one of his, few little favorites that he does whatever they want. I don't know what they do for him, but if rescues do decide to have a facility in order to do this, they have to have a shelter license, And if they have a shelter license, that means they have to pay extra fees. They have to pay for a facility, which is not financially sustainable currently in the current economy. This facility has to have everything waterproof, and they have to have an isolation room with its own separate ventilation. They've also added a new rule that all facilities have to be both heated and cooled, which means that they have to have AC, which is going to increase the costs substantially. Now let's go to the new spay-neuter laws. They've added the law back. They just went back and changed their mind It used to be that every dog in the state of Colorado had to be spayed or neutered before it went home, but no, they're not going to do that anymore. Now, they're going to allow a vet to write the letter exempting the dog if it's going to jeopardize the dog's health, because I'm guessing they figured out that puppies were dying and that was a problem for them. But if they do that, then they have to pay or reimburse adopters up to $300 for the spay-neuter procedure. As long as the dog is spayed and neutered, who cares who pays for it? Why is it the rescue's responsibility, and why are rescues allowing PACFA to dictate what their finances look like? This is not your job, PACFA. This is not your job. Animals are gonna die. And I hate to say this, but these are requests I get on the daily. Every single day, moms with babies, and they're not going to be allowed to come into Colorado. And I just have to say, shame on you, Colorado, for not standing up for the animals, for claiming to be a pet-friendly state, and then allowing a government entity like PACFA that is completely corrupt to come in and tell you that you cannot help anymore. You're not allowed to help. And they're using a ridiculous reason why, and they use MAMCO to further their cause of shutting down rescue in Colorado. Are you gonna let them? Or are you gonna stand up and do something about it? I encourage all of you to go to our link tree and to look at each and every individual person who will be responsible for voting for these rule changes from the House and the Senate in Colorado, and send them an email. Flood their emails. Flood their emails and let them know that this is not okay. We're not going to take this. PACFA doesn't do a damn thing about breeders or about backyard breeders or about anything that has to do with illegal puppy sales. But they're going to regulate rescues into the ground. And this is exactly what they're doing. They're not even trying to pretend like they're pro-rescue. These laws are very blatantly saying, hey, rescues, we don't want you in Colorado. They're not even pretending like that's a thing. And this is unacceptable. Everybody needs to stand up. We need to stand up, and we need to be sending letters, and we need to be making noise. And you know what, rescues? Use my voice. Use this video, because there's not a damn thing they can do to me anymore. And let's get 1 million letters sent to every single person that's responsible for voting for these new rule changes, because they're ridiculous. I don't know what this 3 to 6 days or 3 to 5 day waiting period is. That's not a thing. Rabies can live in the body for up to a year. A dog can have a rabies vaccine and still have rabies. These rules don't make any sense. They're just trying to shut down Colorado rescues. And if you let them, you can't call yourself a pet-friendly state anymore, Colorado.